Hello. As we move into the festive period, but are also still living with COVID-19, we thought it would be a good idea to have a little bit of a chat about preparations for the Christmas period, how we'll move around, meet our family members, and make sure that we're all still keeping each other safe. So just a little reminder here that when you're moving between tiers for that Christmas period, that you take your tier with you if you're going below your tier. So if you're a tier 3 and moving to tier 1, you still need to be acting as though you're in tier 3, even though your household that you might be staying with is still tier 1. But if you're moving to a higher tier, you need to adopt the tier practices that you're moving to. So if you're tier 1 and going up to tiers 2 or 3, you need to behave in that same way. The other thing to think about is as we are starting to form our Christmas bubbles now in preparation for the festive period, that we need to remember how many people we can have. So one Christmas bubble, and we can't change it after we form it, and that bubble can only have up to 3 households in it. What's a really good idea at this point, before we get to that Christmas period, is to make sure that we're starting to reduce our social contact now in preparation for forming these new bubbles that will be up to 3 households. Really, the reason for that here is that lots of the transmission of COVID-19 is in households. And if we're starting to mix households together that haven't normally or frequently been mixing, there is an increased risk of transmission for COVID-19. So starting to reduce that contact with others at the moment, if you haven't already, is a good idea in preparation for meeting your family members. It's a really good idea to consider in that household bubble who might be very vulnerable to COVID-19. If you've got older family members with other health conditions, consider whether it's a good idea, first of all, to form that bubble. Just because we can doesn't necessarily mean we should. It's a normally very happy, fun period to spend with our families, but this year we've got to take a bit of a more sensible approach. We're getting really, really close to seeing the end of this pandemic through over the next several months, especially with a vaccine on the horizon, but we've got to make sure that we're still being sensible in the meantime. So really put some thought around forming that bubble, who might be at risk when you do, and knowing that lots of the transmission ends up taking place within households. If you end up in a situation where you've formed a Christmas bubble, but you start to experience symptoms of COVID-19, so that fever, new continuous cough, or a change to your taste or smell, you need to self-isolate immediately and make sure that you're ordering a test. It can be at home, or you can go to one of the testing centers. So it's really making sure that even though we're mixing a bit over that festive period, that we still follow those very essential prevention messages around isolating and getting tested. As ever, making sure that we're keeping our distance, wearing a mask or a face covering in public spaces, and making sure that we're frequently washing our hands and cleaning surfaces. These are still, although there's a vaccine coming through the population, these are still the most effective ways at the moment of preventing the spread of coronavirus. We've done such a great job in Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly in suppressing this virus throughout the pandemic, and let's keep up that good work. We'll have a really festive and fun Christmas period, but just doing it in a really sensible and safe way. Thanks very much, and I hope everyone has a really lovely festive period and stay safe. Thank you.